Hello YouTube and fellow Star Wars collectors! On this episode of Toys Are the Way, we will be taking a look at the latest vintage collection vehicle offering, the N-1 Starfighter from The Mandalorian. At last, Hasbro has delivered an all-new mid-size vehicle, and today we will be comparing it to the Episode 1 Naboo Starfighter. Taking a look at the packaging, we have our classic Kenner-style box art that just screams world building. We have the Star Wars and Mandalorian logo up top, followed by the title of the vehicle in a bold white typeface. Naturally, the Kenner logo is placed in the bottom right corner, and the included figure decal is placed just north of it. And lastly, in the opposite corner, an image of all the contents inside the packaging. The N1 is nicely displayed in what appears to be a revived Navarro setting, and further emphasizes the beauty of vehicles and world building. Both the tops and sides of the packaging have alternate images of the vehicle in a variety of toy photography and world building scenes. I will say that these construction and maintenance images absolutely highlight the importance of a Peli Motto figure in the vintage collection. And then the back of the box is a clone copy of the front, except with the vintage collection logo added at the top right corner. Once again, we have our plastic-free packaging paired with waxy tissue paper, protecting the carded figure and housing the parts and accessories for the Mandalorian's new ride. Some minor assembly is required, and fortunately for TVC fans, the Kenner-inspired instructions have got you covered. Taking a look at the card, we have the Mandalorian N-1 Starfighter on another orange namepill color, which I will say is a bit repetitive for this character. Regardless, we have an excellent image of Din and Grogu in the N-1 Starfighter from the opening scene of Season 3 of The Mandalorian. Additionally, we have this fantastic figure proudly displayed on a bubble with plenty of accessories. On the back, he is VC 292 in the line, and you can see figures from the Cad Bane wave that is starting to hit retail. So generally speaking, this is a solid addition to our Mandalorian carded collections, and naturally I had to get one of these to open and one to keep carded. Additionally, the Vibroblade is a must for recreating scenes, and I simply can't pass on another soft goods cape. So here we have Din Djarin out of the packaging, and he looks fantastic, but also not very dissimilar from previous versions of this character. I actually have two Kit Bash customs here. The one on the left is actually the Motto crease release, and I used a silver paint marker to kind of get rid of some of that snowy effect that was on his Beskar armor. I also painted his knee armor to be the proper blue and added some metallic scuffing to it and just, remove some of those snowy applications. And that was kind of like my go-to definitive Din Djarin Season 2 look until we got the rescue set, which was a very nice one to get. And the only thing that was, not great about that one, but also cool, was the exaggerated gauntlets that you could put whistling birds into and the flame effect. They were just too bulky, and I do have a separate one that I display like that, but I kind of wanted to, make him a little better. So I actually removed the arms and swapped them out with a spare extra Motto crease one that I had because I had so many from army building the spiders. And this has been my go-to definitive Din Djarin. The only thing that it kind of lacks is a little bit of metallic scuff marking on his knee pad, but other than that, he looks fantastic. And the one thing that I want to point out is that the jetpack is the best one to date. It is a very nice metallic color that matches his helmet and just the rest of his armor. It looks wonderful. And unfortunately, the N-1 Starfighter version does not have that great of a jetpack. Here you can see it's a very dulled down, light gray kind of metallic plastic. And that's unfortunate because I think it's the weakest maybe of the bunch. Other than that, this figure's great. But if we turn them all around real quick, you can see what the jetpacks have been over the course of all of our Din Djarins. Get this guy to stand real quick. There you go. So here we have all three jetpacks. The original ones we saw with the Beskar Mando release, definitely a bit more of a gunmetal gray, not that great. And then they were pretty much that color until we got the rescue set, which here you can see it just shines so nicely. And now we have this N-1 Starfighter release, which it doesn't have the same effect in my opinion. It definitely looks better probably than the gunmetal, but yeah, the rescue set one is absolutely the best version. So that is something to consider, if maybe you don't want to open up this version of Din Djarin. Maybe we're going to be getting a better one when they do that mainline release that they have kind of pipelined. There's some things that I have high hopes for when it comes to that release. And one thing I do want to point out is his Beskar spear. It's great that we've gotten it in the past, and it's cool that it came with this figure, probably coming with the one that they pipelined. The only thing is just like, there's never been a great way to store this because he keeps this on his back. And I understand, tooling something to like have this on his back might be challenging. But here we have my other jetpack from the rescue set. What would be really cool is if they somehow like sculpted a little like clip on there that you could just clip this on and it stays kind of securely on there, and then you attach this to his back. That would be such a cool way to store this and allow it to actually be on his back. I would be so into that. Another thing is, I know they've been standardizing peg holes, and that's been really cool for like customizing, and just like the way they've engineered it now is much better. I've never been a huge fan of this peg. It's off to the side. It's just an awkward shape. It fits in securely and stays, but like it's just never, something about it has always bothered me. So if they want to redesign this to be more standardized, that would be really cool. Especially because Din wears that Super Commando jetpack in Season 3 when he's like, been captured and then gets freed by IG-12 and Grogu. And yeah, so I've been curious how they're going to do that. Will that be a figure? Are they going to update him to have the standardized peg hole so that the tooling from that and the Super Commando figure, fingers crossed we get it, you could just put one of those on his back. So that could be something that would be really cool. So let's take a closer look at him also. But yeah, he's just a good looking figure, but I don't know, the jetpack really kind of lets me down. Another thing I have high hopes for is that maybe they're going to update the tooling for his shoulder armor. It's pretty good, but I do think it kind of limits his movement because it's such a hard plastic. And they're doing such great things with the soft plastic, like on Paz Vizsla and a couple other figures, that just really doesn't hinder any like range of motion. So something that I've been hoping for. But here you can see the vibro blade, very tiny accessory. Fits in his hand nicely. It's very snug. This figure came, out of the package with a very nice, tight, closed hand. So he holds the dark saber and vibro blade and spear very well. So I don't know, if you don't have, the rescue set version, this is something you might want to open. It's also carded, so I understand if you don't want to open it. But all in all, a pretty good looking figure, and I'm happy to have the vibro blade. Taking a look at the N1 fully assembled and out of the packaging, it is simply stunning. What a glorious hunk of junk that was wonderfully engineered with a variety of removable parts. Everything from the engine panels that show the fuel lines and pressure manifold to the turbonic Venturi power assimilator, engine heat sinks, and the hidden cryogenic density combustion booster all show the power of 375 world building at its finest. The attention to detail and level of craftsmanship that Hasbro put into this vintage collection vehicle is rather impressive, if I do say so myself. Everything from the droid port to the hatch that lifts open for easier access, but also has a slide feature for the cockpit, just shows their ability to engineer works of art. Additionally, I have to applaud the team for offering fans the option to use the droid port for an astromech or foregoing the droid and having Grogu in the back as the co-pilot instead. This is such a wonderful feature that allows us to recreate a number of N1 scenes from Season 3 of The Mandalorian and once again adds to the world building potential. While Din Djarin did not carry the Beskar spear by the time of the events of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, I do appreciate that Hasbro included a section of the N-1 Starfighter dedicated to housing this accessory and others that came with the figure and past releases, such as the Pulse Rifle. That is absolutely fantastic stuff, and once again continues to impress. Lastly, it was remarkable to see this classic prequel trilogy ship come back to life in the Book of Boba Fett, and I'm thankful that Hasbro acted quickly to fill the demand for this TVC vehicle, and for a decent price of $130. Taking a closer look at the Starfighter in all its glory, all I can say is wizard. You can really see how this thing shines with all the different lights reflecting off its many shades of metallic paint color. The front of the ship has the most shine, no doubt, and while I don't think the promo images do it justice, the secondary metallic color does have a much better look once in hand. Taking a closer look at all the sculpting, texture, and detail, this is without a doubt a must-have vintage collection vehicle. For the most part, all new Vintage Collection ships and vehicles have been released with wonderfully engineered flight stands. The Prisoner Skiff and Razor Crest were the first to implement such a display item, with the Imperial Speeder bikes following suit, and now the N1 Starfighter, which comes with not only one, but two clear acrylic stands. These have been a breath of fresh air in my opinion, and really allow fans several options for displaying our vehicles. Additionally, this is the second display stand to have the Mandalorian branding on the base, which further adds to our collection. Whether you want to park this ship in a diorama or have it in flight mode on your shelf display, Hasbro has got you covered. Moving on, we have Mando's brand new N1 Starfighter displayed next to the original Episode 1 Naboo Starfighter from 1998. And while these are technically the same class of Starfighter, you can see there are obvious differences that set the two apart, like dogs and wolves. For the most part, these two are very similar in size and match up quite nicely, with some minor differences in the engine lengths. The 1998 Episode 1 Naboo Starfighter is certainly crude in its engineering and has less detail in the cockpit, but was an exceptional release at the time and still holds up rather well in my opinion. An upgraded version was released in 2012 and would be a great vehicle to re-release in TVC. While the age gap between these two is considerable, you can see that the overall design still mirrors each other. While visually alike, Mando's new ride is leaps and bounds better, and has certainly set the bar higher for Vintage Collection Starfighters and vehicles moving forward. I simply cannot say enough positive things about the design, sculpting, and minimal paint applications that make this release shine bright. Additionally, I think it's safe to say that many Vintage Collection fans are ready for more mid-sized vehicles of the same caliber. And lastly, if any of you are curious, the smaller display stand may not clip into the older Episode 1 version the same as it does with Mando's new release, but with a little careful positioning, it can balance on the stand, allowing for a non-flight mode display, and looks rather nice when paired together. I think it's safe to say that everyone in the community instantly wanted the N1 Starfighter added to our collections once we saw it in the Book of Boba Fett, and I'm happy to see this one cruising around my town or parked in my spaceport diorama. But I will emphasize that we need to get Peli Motto and her pit droids into the Vintage Collection. An N1 Starfighter would not be the same without her. Hopefully she's on Hasbro's radar and coming to the line sooner rather than later. Additionally, we need more vehicles of this caliber added to the line, and I personally think Bo-Katan's Gauntlet Starfighter would be a great addition to our Mandalorian collections. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And don't forget to drop a like on this video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. It really helps and is greatly appreciated. Thanks everyone, and may the Force be with you.